A city government that cares about its residents is a city government that strives to keep its residential streets livable. But what is a livable street? Starting back around 2015, a large number of cut-through vehicles and illegal trucks invaded and overwhelmed the residential street of Woodward Heights. The vast majority of the vehicles ignore the stop signs. With the traffic came serious accidents, road rage incidents, car chases, illegal passing, crime, dangerous aggression, and noise 24 hours a day, making sleeping through the night impossible. How did this happen? The neighboring city of Ferndale gave 9 Mile Road a road diet. A diet so severe that, according to the Waze traffic app, if you're going from West 9 Mile to East 9 Mile during certain times of the day, it's faster to go 2 miles out of your way, down to 8 Mile, and then back up to 9 Mile. If your starting point is just 1 block north of 9 Mile, it's faster to go north away from 9 Mile, use the residential street of Woodward Heights, then go back down to 9 Mile. And changes at 10 Mile and 696 resulted in time-consuming traffic backups. So, drivers started using the residential street of Woodward Heights. For this sleepy, historic 1920s residential street, the traffic had become a nightmare. Residents begged the city for help. How did this tiny hamlet of Pleasant Ridge handle the cut-through traffic situation? Unfortunately, they did absolutely nothing. The city ignored the Woodward Heights residents for years. So, in the spring of 2018, a group of Woodward Heights residents had had enough. They told the city they were going to produce a documentary about the traffic situation and the city's neglect. With the threat of a documentary, the city agreed to a meeting. 14 Woodward Heights residents met with the commissioners. Woodward Heights has always been posted no trucks allowed. Yet over 40 illegal trucks a day use Woodward Heights, including highly aggressive, ground-shaking, and illegal out-of-town garbage trucks, and extremely loud ground-shaking and illegal semis. At that 2018 meeting, Commissioner Bret explained the truck issue. He said that about 10 years ago, somebody, they don't know who, called the city and asked them to stop enforcing the no truck law on Woodward Heights. So, the city of Pleasant Ridge stopped enforcing the no truck law for this anonymous caller. Yet, the city never informed the residents on Woodward Heights that the no truck law had been changed. While that was a very strange story and a great example of government incompetence, the city of Pleasant Ridge promised to stop the illegal trucks going forward. That promise was not kept, as Woodward Heights still sees over 40 illegal trucks per day. Since that 2018 meeting, Woodward Heights has seen over 50,000 illegal trucks. At that 2018 meeting, the residents had one and only one objective: stop the cut-through traffic. The city said they would study the matter. 4 years later, nothing has changed. At that 2018 meeting, the residents asked for some immediate temporary help. They asked that a visible no truck sign be added at the Woodward intersection. The city refused. The residents asked the city to repaint the neglected stop sign lines in the hopes that it would get drivers to stop for pedestrians, but the city refused. And by the spring of 2021, the cut-through traffic remains, as does the danger, noise, illegal trucks, and everything that comes with cut-through traffic. The Institute for Transportation Engineers says that an excellent residential street gets under 300 vehicles per day. A good street gets under 600 vehicles per day. An acceptable street gets under 1,200 vehicles per day. And a poor street gets over 1,200 vehicles per day. They stress that government decisions should not cause a residential street to receive over 600 vehicles per day. Woodward Heights, a residential street, gets 3,600 vehicles per day, including over 40 illegal trucks per day. That's 1,314,000 vehicles per year, 30 feet from bedroom windows. That's 15,695 illegal trucks a year. Only one Pleasant Ridge official agreed to an interview. It was conducted on the porch of a Woodward Heights home.
So I think a street is livable when you have sidewalks, when you have neighbors, wave over the fence.
Yes, sidewalks, neighbors, and a wave over the fence may make a street more livable, but ask the residents of Woodward Heights and they'll tell you something different.
And if you're people who are coming from 9 Mile, where they've done traffic calming and they essentially got rid of one lane of traffic on 9 Mile, everybody knows that Woodward Heights is now the new, faster cut through.
I'm a walker, a jogger, runner, biker. I'm out there nonstop. I've almost gotten hit several times on my bike. We're expecting a child, and if we had known that this whole drama would have occurred, we probably might not have considered this.
I feel like of all the places I walk, Woodward Heights is the most unsafe street to walk on. It's just a lot of aggressiveness. It's not so much the speed as it is the aggressiveness.
I'd like to point out, we talk about the number of trucks on a street. Please remember that on Woodward Heights, we actually have semi-trucks.
Air brakes are loud, their diesel engines are loud.
We're not supposed to have trucks in the city. And what Mindy said about the trucks, the number of trucks, they're just flying through to Woodward or to go wherever they're going. It's amazing.
I have seen bicycles run off the road.
I live here. This is my home. I see this all the time. I sit on the porch. And I honestly think Woodward Heights is the most problem street in the community. Look at this car ripping along. They're slowing down, turning, don't even stop, go around the corner, on the accelerator. Again, that's common. And that car does that all the time. I see that car regularly do that.
As a young person, I think it's a huge turnoff because young millennials who might want to move into this area love biking, love running, love being outside, and you're making it so that it doesn't feel very safe for us.
It's very frustrating.
This is a problem street, a problem area.
I hear more swearing from pedestrians and bicycle riders who are run off to the side that I can tell you.
I've been here 26 years and I've seen a lot at this corner. I'm just tired of the traffic and the not safety.
It's just insane that how aggressive people drive on the street.
And I don't appreciate the way that we've all been treated on this street.
Now I'm down here in front of 22 Woodward Heights, and you can see this damage in the lawn here, damage there. This is 22. That was from a car being upside down. That front window, that's my bedroom. So semis come down here and apply their air brakes. If you know anything about air brakes, it's when you release the air pressure, the brakes apply. So they're blowing their air pressure off their brakes as they're coming here. That's that hiss you hear, the loud noise. It wakes me up all the time when those air brakes are applied here. and then the diesel engines roar off.
Taking a nap during the day is not possible. Sleeping through the night is not possible. The sounds and vibrations are relentless. The growl of engines and car speakers produce low bass frequencies. Low-frequency sound waves penetrate walls with ease. Lying in bed, one is constantly hearing and feeling the vehicles. The sounds and vibrations penetrate the entire home, literally rattling eardrums, floors, walls, windows, and the dishes in the cupboards.
I think sound can play a factor for sure. Vehicle traffic is one. There's a lot of contributing factors when it comes to noise. Obviously with higher traffic volumes, with people playing their radios, right? You know, so sound can have an adverse effect.
The city of Pleasant Ridge has a long history of stopping cut-through traffic. In the 1920s and 30s, the state of Michigan, along with the cities of Detroit, Ferndale, and Royal Oak, wanted to build an alternative to the congested Woodward Avenue by extending Livernois. The city of Pleasant Ridge said no. They put the residents above the cut-through traffic. A few decades later, when residents on Maplefield, Oakdale, Ridge Road, and the streets going east-west complained of too much cut-through traffic from vehicles avoiding Woodward Avenue, the city took action. They installed barricades, turning them into cul-de-sacs or dead ends. When 696 was built, they added sound barriers to the dead ends, once again putting residents above traffic. More recently, the city of Pleasant Ridge stopped cut-through traffic on Maywood Avenue, turning it into a cul-de-sac.
And we closed off the end of Maywood at Gainsborough. Now it's very quiet.
The city cut off the street of Fairwood, turning it into a cul-de-sac for Cork Bar. In fact, if you're exiting Cork's parking lot, you cannot use Fairwood. You're forced to head south down the alley to, you guessed it, Woodward Heights. The city of Pleasant Ridge treats Woodward Heights residents as second-class citizens, not as important as residents on other streets, and not as important as Cork Bar. Why? That's what this documentary will seek to discover. We'll cover the controversial hiring of Jim Breuckman, who had no experience as a city manager, and why 75 Pleasant Ridge residents signed a petition asking that he not be hired. We'll examine Jim's creative use of statistics that try to prove Woodward Heights is not as bad as residents make it out to be. Legally, Woodward Heights is not wide enough for a bike lane, so the city installed what they call a pseudo-bike lane. Many cyclists do not know they're using a bike lane that does not give them the legal protections of a real bike lane.
In Ferndale, they had 36 feet of street. In Pleasant Ridge, we have 30 feet of street. A bike lane has to be a minimum of 5 feet. If Woodward Heights, the geometry of the street only being 30 feet wide poses some real challenges. So I call it a pseudo bike lane because it has to be 5 feet to be an official bike lane. We can't call it or stripe it as a bike lane because that doesn't meet the minimum design guidance. And then we could be in trouble for basically for doing that. So
many modern cities, including Royal Oak, allow cycling in the roadway, making cyclists equal to vehicles. One would think this would be a great idea for a residential street like Woodward Heights, but because the city has allowed Woodward Heights to become a cut-through street, this would be much too dangerous.
It's an unmarked pseudo bike lane that you may use if you're riding your bike, but we don't sanction that as an official thing.
In 2018, the city of Pleasant Ridge promised they were going to count the number of cars on Woodward Heights. The cars were finally counted in 2020 during the height of Michigan's coronavirus outbreak, when traffic was down. An interesting time to study the number of cars on a road.
And then we saw a subset of data starting from June of this year during the pandemic, during the summer, when traffic is down, showing that traffic was quote unquote calmer.
Jim's official city report shows the 2015 numbers and the numbers gathered during the virus. But we found a letter sent to Jim from the city of Ferndale in 2018. The city of Ferndale counted the number of cars on Woodward Heights in Pleasant Ridge. They said the Pleasant Ridge portion of Woodward Heights receives 3,600 vehicles per day. Why did Jim leave the 2018 count out of his official scientific report? One can only wonder. The 2018 Ferndale study showed that Bermuda Avenue in Pleasant Ridge gets 250 vehicles per day. City Manager Jim Breuckman, using his deceptive COVID numbers, says Bermuda only gets 90 vehicles per day.
Bermuda has 90 cars entering that intersection. So,
while the city of Pleasant Ridge used deceptive numbers for their official scientific report, the 2015 numbers and the numbers taken during the height of COVID are still unacceptably high. When residents asked Jim for a list of complaints from Woodward Heights residents over the past 5 years, Jim said the city doesn't keep those records.
Why doesn't the city keep records of complaints?
I think there's a law that says the city has to keep records.
And the city manager ever mentioned all of our complaints to you? That's not good. When the city of Ferndale gave 9 Mile Road a road diet, did their impact studies indicate that Woodward Heights would take the brunt of the traffic? Did they care? Did the city of Pleasant Ridge know that Woodward Heights would take the brunt of the traffic? Currently, the city of Ferndale counts on Woodward Heights being a cut-through in order to reduce their traffic volumes. Oak Ridge Avenue, which is 1 block south of Woodward Heights, is exactly halfway between 9 Mile and 10 Mile. Ferndale's Oak Ridge Avenue would take the majority of the cut-through traffic if Woodward Heights was cut off. Is this why the city of Pleasant Ridge won't act? Do they have some sort of an agreement with the city of Ferndale? Why has Woodward Heights been forced to be a cut-through street? And more importantly, why does the city of Pleasant Ridge want Woodward Heights to stay a cut-through street? Enjoying a morning cup of coffee or an evening glass of wine on the front porch is no longer possible. Even inside the homes, with the windows closed, conversations are paused due to the noise. TVs are paused. Falling asleep is difficult, and staying asleep is not possible. Sounds of the traffic can be heard and felt in every room of the home, day and night. The constant vibrations cause the homes to settle prematurely. Bad brakes, mufflers, sports cars, and vehicles purposely tuned to be loud and aggressive, pickup trucks with diesel engines, semis, horns, drivers yelling obscenities at each other, road rage incidents, and booming radios all add to the mix to ruin any chance of tranquility a livable street should have. This 1920s street and these 1920s homes were not built for modern cut-through traffic. Illegal out-of-town garbage trucks are some of the most aggressive drivers. They never stop for the stop signs, and when they see a pedestrian coming, rather than stopping, they hit the gas, as you'll see in these next two clips.
Woodward Heights is a problem area. It's got aggressive drivers. I've been passed on our street. I've backed out of my driveway and had cars come right up and ride my tailgate. I've had horns blown at me.
Backing out of driveways has become a time-consuming, white-knuckled nightmare. Parking on both sides of the street is no longer possible.
Woodward Heights right now is barely wide enough for two cars to go side by side with parking on one side of the street. You actually have to drive in the pseudo bike lane, as you described it, for two cars to pass. It's where there's parking on both sides. It's a game of chicken. When you have opposing traffic, somebody has to pull off into the end of someone's driveway so the other car can get through. And with the traffic volumes on Woodward Heights, that's just inconceivable, the amount of cars that are going to be pulling over, honking, the chicken that's going to take place. People are going to have to back up. It just sounds like a nightmare.
Not being able to park on both sides of the street has made Woodward Heights more attractive to cut-through drivers.
Can I put my wife on for a second? Here we go.
Yeah, thanks so much. I have to be on the headset.
Yeah, if you want to hear.
Well, I don't really care to hear. I've heard enough. I just want to say I'm a resident of Woodward Heights for 30 years. I'm honestly saying you're solving nothing, absolutely nothing. We have children on the street. You're presenting hazards. You're creating a great deal of stress. And you're making hazards for pedestrians and children. And I'm frustrated with city government for not being responsive. And you're having the audacity to use silly terms like traffic calming. You're fooling absolutely no one. Absolutely no one. And I'm just really upset. So I want to voice my opinion. I've sent you a letter. I'm not going to bother reading it. But I can tell you this, nobody believes you. Nobody believes your data. But I'm sure you've got something to say. You always do.
Noise has become one of the most significant location factors that affect the value of residential property. Home values are estimated to drop by 40% on a cut-through street. One reason it ranks so high is because noise isn't simply a nuisance, it's a public health issue. The new secondhand smoke, according to the Washington Post. Studies show that consistent traffic noise can cause hypertension, sleep disturbances, anxiety, and other health issues. Neighborhoods around the world are experiencing increased cut-through traffic due to road diets and traffic apps such as Waze, turning quiet, livable streets into traffic nightmares. So what should the city of Pleasant Ridge do? Traffic calming does not stop cut-through traffic. Adding or removing stop signs does not stop cut-through traffic. Ruining the streetscape with jarring fluorescent signs does not stop cut-through traffic. Speed bumps and speed humps do not stop cut-through traffic. Posting streets no through traffic or local only does not work because the laws are too vague to enforce. Experts agree that the most obvious and effective way to stop cut-through traffic is to turn the street into a cul-de-sac, just as the city has done for residents on the west side, the east side, and for the business of Cork Bar. Having this many stop signs on a residential street is completely out of the norm. The signs are only there to slightly calm the aggressive drivers. By converting Woodward Heights into a cul-de-sac, the signs can be removed, opening the street to cyclists, joggers, and residents. Healthy, livable streets need not clash with emergency vehicles. In fact, they often increase response times. Sadly, some Woodward Heights residents have sold their homes and moved away because of the traffic and the city's inaction. Others plan to move if the city doesn't act, and many residents say they no longer use their front yards. Urban designer Donald Appleyard coined the phrase livable streets. A research study by Appleyard showed a distinct correlation between traffic volumes and the number of acquaintances people have. It showed residents had more friends and more contact with neighbors on streets with less traffic. Less traffic enables residents to interact more. Low-volume streets create more livable communities than streets with high traffic volume. Children grow up more independently with fewer worries and burdens on parents. They experience happier and healthier lives. A cul-de-sac emphasizes the closeness of homes and families. With a quieter street, the opportunity for playing in the front yard and the sidewalk is more appealing. This environment promotes a closer bond between families. Parents can toss the ball with their kids, families can interact with the neighbors, ride their bikes, enjoy their yards, sleep, enjoy a reasonable amount of peace, quiet, and tranquility. Letting a street become a cut-through street compromises residents' humanity, decreases quality of life. For parents living on a cut-through street, a rise in traffic volume increases anxiety about allowing children to play outside. Children between the ages of 5 and 9 are particularly at risk to traffic-caused injury. Allowing a residential street to become a cut-through street robs both children and their parents of a sense of safety and freedom. Responsible growth management begins with a plan, but the City of Pleasant Ridge has been unsympathetic. They say Woodward Heights is fine the way it is.
From my view, it appears that Woodward Heights is actually a calm road.
That is not the truth.
Watch as this pedestrian attempts to cross the street at the crosswalk. He appreciates that the westbound car stopped for him, so he waves the car ahead. The car behind that car swerves into the oncoming traffic lane, runs the stop sign, and passes the vehicle. Residents have been complaining to the city about the Woodward Heights-Bermuda intersection for years. In the summer of 2020, without notifying the residents, the city removed the stop signs at Bermuda. By removing the stop signs, residents could no longer hold the city accountable for vehicles running the stop signs and for the danger this intersection has always had.
To me. Now, I get that if you take out a stop sign, you're going to have fewer people running a stop sign. But if we make murder legal, we're going to have fewer people guilty of committing a crime, of committing murder. You don't take out a stop sign so that you keep people from breaking the law. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to most of the people who live right here at this corner and see it every day.
With the stop signs gone, cut-through drivers could now drive all the way from Hilton Road to Woodward with only one stop sign at Indiana.
They're coming all the way from Hilton, flying into our city.
The city also narrowed the intersection so only one vehicle can go through at a time.
When they see a car coming the other direction, they hurry up. So they're the ones who don't have to slow down and wait for somebody to go through first. People are racing in a game of chicken, and that's what's dangerous.
You are teaching people that if they don't have to stop at Bermuda, why should they stop at Indiana? they've got a full head of steam. I don't care if they're going 25 or going 30, they've got a full head of steam. And if they want to get to Woodward and they see it within 25 yards, when they hit that Indiana sign, they're now going to say, the Indiana stop sign is unwarranted because why have I been traveling for roughly a mile from Hilton all the way through Ferndale, and the first stop sign I hit is 25 yards before Woodward, which is my ultimate destination. It's not like Woodward Heights is some great destination between Hilton and Woodward. We are a cut-through street to one of the biggest streets in Oakland County.
It doesn't seem like it's been a democratic process. It seems like this was just kind of sprung upon all of us. Put the freaking stop sign back and do the other things that you need to do, because it's just really not fair to the residents. You are causing a lot of drama. I don't feel like we were involved in the decision-making process.
I actually had asked the city if we could put the stop signs back up for Dream Cruise, and Jim decided not to do that. Candidly, City Hall told me it was too much of a hassle to put them up and take them down. And yet, for Dream Cruise, we closed off 3/4 of the streets in the city. So I'm not quite sure why it would be such a hassle to put them up and take them down.
It wasn't because it was too much of a hassle. Didn't want to whipsaw in the middle of a test of taking a stop sign down and removing it. And then I had concerns about putting it back up and then taking it down again, of there just being too much change.
Jim's excuse for removing the stop signs was because he felt they were unwarranted. They didn't meet the necessary standards for stop signs, according to Jim. Yet, in a letter sent to Jim in 2018 by the City of Ferndale and the Transportation Improvement Association, they stated that stop signs are warranted and appropriate to control vehicle-pedestrian conflicts. Vehicle-pedestrian conflicts are a hallmark of cut-through traffic, which Jim and the city are well aware of. Rather than seeing the illegal trucks and the aggressive drivers running the stop signs as the problem, the city sees the stop signs as the problem.
What precipitated this study? Were there complaints about the speeds or people going through the stop sign or noise?
So a couple of years ago, we had the traffic engineers look at a few intersections around town. We also had them look at Bermuda and Woodward Heights because we knew that that was a location in town where people roll and ignore the stop sign the most. So it's just based on known issues from anecdotally talking to the police about, where signs and where things are, problematic. So that's why we looked at the Woodward Heights Bermuda.
And their theory is that if there's an intersection where vehicles tend to run the stop signs, simply remove the stop signs. Once again, putting cut-through drivers above residents. When residents told the Pleasant Ridge city government that crossing their own street was now even more dangerous, city manager Jim Breuckman said, "The burden is not on the drivers, it's on the pedestrian."
Again, acknowledge that as a pedestrian now, the onus does become on you to make sure that that car stops before you step out into the road.
State law demands that drivers must stop for pedestrians at the crosswalk. The burden is on the drivers, not the pedestrians, according to state law. Jim says he had his 11-year-old daughter walk across Woodward Heights at the Bermuda intersection.
She was able to do it. Most cars stopped, some didn't.
Jim says that for his 11-year-old daughter, most cars stopped, some didn't, as if that's a good thing. Most dads would be unhappy about this.
So, Jim, what you found was that without the stop sign there is no change of the speed of the cars on the street?
Clearly, the speed increased.
Even though the residents told the city that the intersection was now more dangerous and the city's own data showed that the speed had increased, the commissioners still claimed the data somehow proved the signs should stay down.
I can see how the loss of a stop sign might feel like it's a safety issue, how it might feel as though it's a challenge, or it might actually present some more challenges, but the data doesn't seem to show that.
We've done the research. The research shows that it's the best thing to do is to take away the stop sign.
I would be in favor of not putting the stop sign back.
Common sense tells me to follow research.
My view is that I would rather leave the signs out for the same reason that we have ordinances for where you put your air conditioners and how tall garages can be. All the things that we do to enforce code, I think it makes sense to do that with the stop signs.
Ironically, Bret wants to enforce the ordinances about garages and stop signs, but has no interest in enforcing the no truck law on Woodward Heights. Bret pretends to be unaware that there's a no truck law on the books.
We have some rules on the books that say that the stop sign isn't needed. And my personal view is that since it doesn't seem to be needed, it's probably okay to get rid of it.
The city of Pleasant Ridge wasted time, energy, and taxpayer money with the games they played with the stop signs. The residents were then forced to spend their valuable time arguing with the city to get them to put the stop signs back where they were.
We are going to put the stop sign back.
Even though the residents living near the stop signs are forced to put up with the nonstop noise and are unable to hold conversations and unable to sleep soundly through the night, the stop signs need to be there because they slightly calm the vehicle-pedestrian conflicts inherent with cut-through traffic. With the decision being made to put the stop signs back where they were, the mayor patted himself on the back and then called the residents science deniers.
Well, I think it's a testament to the city commission listening to residents. And I think a lot of great points were made. I do think, there is the science, and when people say they don't want to believe the science, I'm afraid I've heard too much of that recently. So we are going to put the stop sign back and see where we go from here. Revisit it next
Not
year.
one, but two.
But two, that's right. Two signs.
Oh, just one. Just kidding. No, we take and we do take it very seriously. It's we're laughing because
Ferndale's portion of Woodward Heights to the east is an industrial area. Woodward Heights widens by 6 feet. The Pleasant Ridge portion of Woodward Heights and the Ferndale portion of Woodward Heights are two totally different kinds of streets. The Ferndale portion of Woodward Heights is zoned industrial, it's wider, and it allows trucks. The Pleasant Ridge portion of Woodward Heights is zoned residential, it's a narrow street, and it's posted no trucks. Yet, the Pleasant Ridge portion of Woodward Heights sees the same traffic as the industrial portion. The city of Pleasant Ridge does not want to admit that these are two totally different kinds of roads. Vehicles entering Pleasant Ridge from the industrial area are often traveling at high speeds. When a resident living near this intersection asked Jim if there was any way he could help, he simply disregarded her request by saying, "I don't know."
Is there something that can be done to improve this intersection? Working with Ferndale somehow to make it a safer intersection?
The short answer is I don't know, but we'll keep it in mind if there's anything we can do.
What Jim didn't mention was that 2 years prior, the Transportation Improvement Association conducted a study. They suggested that the stop signs at Bermuda be moved to the industrial border. Having stop signs at the industrial border actually makes more sense than having them at Bermuda. Currently, Bermuda is the first stop sign between Hilton and Woodward. Having vehicles stop at the industrial border might give drivers time to consider the fact that they're about to enter a different kind of street, a residential street with homes and bedroom windows 30 feet from their vehicles.
Is there something that can be done to improve this intersection? Working with Ferndale somehow to make it a safer intersection.
The Woodward Heights resident asked Jim if he could work with the city of Ferndale to calm the cars and trucks racing into Pleasant Ridge? Jim said, "I don't know." Yet, in 2019, the City of Ferndale issued a traffic control order stating that all-way stop signs are warranted and should be installed at the industrial border. Jim received that order from the City of Ferndale, but he ignored it and he didn't tell the Woodward Heights residents about it. But no Woodward Heights resident should have to live with the noise that's created by cut-through traffic and stop signs. Parked cars being sideswiped and other property damage from cut-through vehicles are much too common on Woodward Heights. Police reports show that for the majority of these types of accidents, the drivers flee the scene. Woodward Heights is a very short street, measuring about a quarter mile. The number of accidents on Woodward Heights far exceeds the customary or appropriate limits of a residential street, far beyond what is reasonable, expected, or fair.
I've lived in a lot of different places in this country in a lot of different areas, and never have lived in a residential area where there's even been an accident, let alone 3 major ones where an ambulance had to come take people away. The first being a bicycle at Bermuda. The second one was, I was out putting up Christmas lights and a van went down the street like 70 miles an hour, hit a parked car, ricocheted off, broke a utility pole off, taken by ambulance, and just a week or two ago a car rolled up by 22 or 24 Woodward Heights. This is a neighborhood street, come on.
Serious accidents on Woodward Heights have become commonplace. Because Woodward Heights is a narrow 1920s street, it's not legally wide enough for a bike lane, so many cyclists have to use the sidewalks. In 2016, a cyclist was headed east on the sidewalk. He saw a car approaching Woodward Heights on Bermuda. He assumed the car would stop at the stop sign. Unfortunately, the driver of the car was looking at the car headed west on Woodward Heights. She wanted to beat that car through the intersection, so she hit the gas. She hit the cyclist. He lay on his back in the street until the ambulance arrived. They gave him a neck brace and rushed him to the hospital. And in 2018, a cyclist was hit at the Woodward intersection, injuring his leg, ankles, arms, and hands. Woodward Heights is unusually wide at the Woodward intersection. This is because in the 1920s there was an island in the middle of the street with 2 oak trees. The traffic island was removed in 1952, but the road was not narrowed. The Woodward Heights pedestrian crosswalk is 7 feet wider than all of the other east side crosswalks, making Woodward Heights even more attractive to cut through traffic and illegal trucks. For years, residents have asked the city to narrow this intersection to make pedestrian crossing easier, but the city refuses. In 2018, an out-of-control vehicle traveling at high speeds ran the Bermuda stop sign, crashed into 2 parked cars, drove onto the sidewalk, and crashed into a utility pole, breaking it in half. Wreckage from the vehicle littered the street. In 2020, an out-of-control driver drove onto the sidewalk, ending up upside down on a resident's front lawn.
When I see an upside-down car on somebody's front lawn, do I feel safe walking down the sidewalk? I'm flabbergasted somebody hasn't got killed on our street. It's going to, mark my word, it will happen if something's not done about the traffic on our street. Somebody's going to get killed.
Thanks, Howard. We continue to look at these issues.
We continue to look at these issues. A stock political line the city has been telling the residents since 2014. Woodward Heights is not a calm street. Serious accidents like these should not happen on a residential street. A residential street that encounters so many out-of-control cars ending up on sidewalks and front yards of homes is not a calm street.
From my view, it appears that Woodward Heights is actually a calm road.
It should be mentioned that Bret is possibly thinking of his own street, which is a cul-de-sac and sees no cut-through traffic. Traffic apps like Google's Waze app direct drivers to Woodward Heights. Google says traffic apps will always show drivers the fastest route, even if that sends them onto a residential street. Google says municipalities are responsible for managing roads and reducing traffic and are free to take measures to meet their needs. So why won't the city manager, the mayor, and the commissioners of Pleasant Ridge take measures to meet the needs and safety of Woodward Heights residents? Many cities have a goal to fix the problem of cut-through traffic, to make streets livable and safe for residents, pedestrians, and cyclists. The City of Pleasant Ridge does not. In fact, the City of Pleasant Ridge wants to keep Woodward Heights a cut-through street.
From my view, it appears that Woodward Heights is actually a calm road.
Bret says Woodward Heights is a calm road. He also says Woodward Heights should stay a cut-through street because he calls it a half-mile road. A half-mile road is a colloquial term with absolutely no legal designation. And if half-mile roads are so important, why isn't there a half-mile road on the west side of Pleasant Ridge? And why isn't there a half-mile road between 8 and 9 Mile? To be fair, let's look a little deeper into Bret's half-mile road excuse. What is a half-mile road? Lincoln, which is between 10 and 11 Mile Road, east of Woodward, is sometimes called a half-mile road by some people. It's 6 feet wider than Woodward Heights. Catalpa, between 11 Mile and 12 Mile Road, is 6 feet wider than Woodward Heights. The short stretch of Webster between 12 and 13 Mile Road east of Woodward is sometimes called a half-mile road. It's 6 feet wider than Woodward Heights. Normandy between 13 and 14 Mile Roads is 6 feet wider than Woodward Heights. Lincoln between 14 and 15 Mile Road is 10 feet wider than Woodward Heights, and there are no other half-mile roads north of 15 Mile. Half-mile roads are at least 36 feet wide. Woodward Heights is only 30 feet wide. Jim uses the half-mile excuse too. In one breath, Jim admits that Woodward Heights is a normal residential street, but in the next breath, he calls it a half-mile road.
So when looking at Woodward Heights, it's a bit of a challenging street because the houses, it's a normal residential street. You've got 50-foot lots, so there's quite a few houses. They're closer to the street. We have a lot of driveways. We have traffic, it's a half-mile road. We have traffic, it's a half-mile road. We have traffic, it's a half-mile road.
The city seems to think that if they call Woodward Heights a half-mile road, it gives them an excuse to disenfranchise, mistreat, and neglect the residents of Woodward Heights. Ferndale's industrial portion of Woodward Heights, being 36 feet wide, could be called a half-mile road. However, the residential portion of Woodward Heights and Pleasant Ridge, being only 30 feet wide, does not fit the definition of a half-mile road.
In Ferndale, they had 36 feet of street. In Pleasant Ridge, we have 30 feet of street.
Bret also argues that Woodward Heights should stay a cut-through street because he feels Woodward Heights is, quote-unquote, the gateway to Hazel Park. Hazel Park is 2 cities away. If Woodward Heights were turned into a cul-de-sac, residents can still easily use Woodward Heights as a gateway to Hazel Park. Cut-through drivers and trucks can easily use 10 Mile or 696 or 9 Mile. 9 Mile Road, 10 Mile Road, and 696 were all designed and built specifically to move vehicles around neighborhoods. 10 Mile Road has 2 eastbound lanes and 2 westbound lanes. 696 has 4 eastbound lanes and 4 westbound lanes. Drivers can choose from 6 lanes going east or west, but due to the changes at the intersection, it's still faster to take the residential street of Woodward Heights. The city of Ferndale has a convenience store located at the industrial border. Some of the illegal trucks on Woodward Heights are going to and from that store. Driving from Ferndale, illegally into Pleasant Ridge, back into Ferndale. If Woodward Heights were turned into a cul-de-sac, truckers can easily use Oak Ridge without losing any time. Staying in Ferndale the entire trip without entering Pleasant Ridge illegally. The same is true for the many businesses in Ferndale's industrial area. The danger and nuisance of the cut-through traffic could end today with little cost and little effort by the city. Residents have asked the city to install temporary barricades at the Woodward Alley and the industrial border. This would give residents of Woodward Heights immediate relief until permanent solutions are installed. The city of Pleasant Ridge actually has a lot of experience with barricades. During the annual Dream Cruise event along Woodward Avenue, held every August, over 40,000 classic cars, modern muscle cars, and souped-up pickup trucks drive up and down Woodward Avenue from Detroit to Pontiac, with over 1 million spectators watching along Woodward Avenue. While the Dream Cruise is only a one-day event, classic cars, modern muscle cars, and extremely loud and rowdy pickup trucks start flooding Woodward Heights a week before the event. The Dream Cruise can present problems for residential streets along Woodward Avenue, so the city of Pleasant Ridge installs barricades during the event. Every year the city announces, "We will be placing barricades to close most of our streets at Woodward on Saturday," in an attempt to keep the cruise from spilling over into the neighborhoods. So the city of Pleasant Ridge installs barricades for the residents. Sylvan is left open as it's the only through street that connects West Pleasant Ridge with East Pleasant Ridge. While all the other streets are blocked, for some reason, Woodward Heights is left open to the mayhem. This is yet another example of the Pleasant Ridge city government treating the residents of Woodward Heights differently than they treat residents on other streets. The city's stated goal to keep the cruise from spilling over into the neighborhoods for some reason doesn't apply to Woodward Heights residents. It's as if the city of Pleasant Ridge doesn't know that Woodward Heights is a Pleasant Ridge neighborhood. In order to stop the 3,600 cut-through vehicles per day and the 43 illegal trucks per day, barricades could and should be installed on Woodward Heights now, until permanent solutions can be installed. Unfortunately, the city refuses to do this, just as they still refuse to put a visible no truck sign at the Woodward intersection, and they refuse to repaint the neglected stop sign lines.
There's not cases that I know of where cities just eliminate passage through their community.
The commissioner seems unaware that the street he lives on eliminated passage. He seems unaware that Maplefield eliminated passage due to cut-through traffic. Oakdale eliminated passage to stop cut-through traffic. Ridge Road eliminated passage to stop cut-through traffic. Indiana eliminated passage to stop cut-through traffic. 6 streets on the east side eliminated passage. He seems unaware that the business of Cork Bar eliminated passage. He seems unaware that there are currently 3 streets on the east side in and out of Ferndale. If Woodward Heights were converted into a cul-de-sac, residents can still easily travel in and out of the city on the east side, and residents can still easily head south to downtown Ferndale. Again, the west side of Pleasant Ridge has eliminated passage on the north edge and the west edge. The east side of Pleasant Ridge has eliminated passage on the north side only. Turning Woodward Heights into a cul-de-sac would not change this. If Woodward Heights were converted into a cul-de-sac, the east side of Pleasant Ridge would not be any more restrictive than the west side.
We closed off the end of Maywood at Gainsborough. Now it's very quiet.
Since the 2018 meeting with the city, and even though the traffic was down due to the coronavirus, Woodward Heights has seen over 4.1 million cut-through drivers and over 60,000 illegal trucks. City Manager Jim Breuckman says they have no intention of stopping the cut-through traffic. Their only goal is to slow traffic by 2.5 miles per hour, a goal the city has had but been unable to achieve since 2014. In an email to a resident, Jim argued that Woodward Heights should stay a cut-through street. His reasoning? He wrote, "The traffic is not a new situation. It existed when you, I, and every other current Pleasant Ridge resident moved here." This is the backward-thinking argument that some policy, behavior, or practice is right or acceptable because it's always been done that way. This appeal to tradition is a logical fallacy. This is the argument that's been used to defend and continue many social injustices throughout history. "We've always done it this way" is never a good excuse not to take action. A city government with a culture of "we've always done it this way" has no room for change or growth. It's a mob mentality rooted in deep, willful ignorance. If Jim and the Pleasant Ridge city government are going to use this logical fallacy, they should at least provide some reason why the tradition of Woodward Heights being a cut-through street should be respected and kept. The Pleasant Ridge city government is not forward-thinking or open-minded. Ironically, City Manager Jim Breuckman lives on Maplefield, a street that stopped cut-through traffic. Commissioners Ann Perry, Bret Scott, and Jason Krisiak all live on calm, peaceful, quiet cul-de-sacs that see no cut-through traffic, no illegal trucks, and no out-of-control vehicles on their sidewalks and front yards.
That front window, that's my bedroom.
The Pleasant Ridge city government does not like hearing from Woodward Heights residents. As you can see, they were very happy when the Woodward Heights portion of the meeting ended.
So now we can move on to the city manager's report.
Yay.
Jim?
Is he here?
Yes, he's there.
Is he here?
I know the issue with the traffic on Woodward Heights is of issue. Right. So the no trucks, yeah, that is an issue.
In 1935, proponents of the Livernois cut-through complained about the city of Pleasant Ridge blocking the plan. One said, "A community of less than 3,000 population is blocking a road vital to the entire state of Michigan." Answering to that, City Manager Ashton J. Burst simply said, "There is nothing to prevent motorists from using Woodward." If City Manager Burst were alive today, he might say, in reference to Woodward Heights being a cut-through, "There is nothing to prevent motorists from using 9 Mile, 10 Mile, and 696. When Pleasant Ridge forced the 696 highway to jog north of its original plan in order to save Kensington, the rec center, and the pool, Irving Rubin, the executive assistant to the State Highway Commissioner, said Pleasant Ridge has a history of obstructionism. They ought to raise it, pave it, and turn it into a parking lot for the zoo. Stopping politicians, businesses, and cut-through traffic from ruining our neighborhoods may not be popular or easy, but Pleasant Ridge leaders of the past proved it's the right thing to do to keep a city of neighborhoods livable. The current Pleasant Ridge city government has lost those values. It's a slap in the face to Woodward Heights residents and to the history of Pleasant Ridge. It's an insult to the Pleasant Ridge leaders of the past who fought so hard to keep Pleasant Ridge neighborhoods livable. During the 696 negotiations, the city of Pleasant Ridge was called the David of Michigan cities for slaying Goliath, the State Highway Commission. Today, the Woodward Heights residents are David, and the Pleasant Ridge city government is Goliath. So far, it's been a 7-year battle, starting back in 2014 with the controversial hiring of Jim Breuckman as city manager. Woodward Heights residents asked Jim for help with the illegal trucks and the increasing amount of cut-through traffic. Jim did absolutely nothing. In 2018, residents met with the commissioners. Still, nothing was done. In 2019, Commissioner Krisiak admitted that the city had failed.
Yes, a vision or an agreement was made that we were going to do certain things. We haven't done those. So yes, it's a failure on my part as a representative to say, a year ago we said we were going to do these, we haven't done them. Okay, but I am under the belief that we will still do them. Yes, I'm your representative and I've admitted it. I've failed on this issue to advocate solutions that we agreed to a year ago. And yes, I'm looking out here, I'm not seeing anything being done. My understanding is that something will be done, but it's not being done. So that's a disappointment for me. It's also a failure on my part, not advocating that things be done here. Nothing has been done. So knowing that we have intentions to do something isn't really that satisfying for you living here, the residents living here, knowing they can look out here and see nothing's done. So
in 2020, the city counted the number of vehicles during the virus when traffic was down. The city took down the stop signs at Bermuda and added a pinch point at the Woodward Alley. The September 2020 commissioners' meeting ended with the stop signs being put back up. The commissioners decided to make the pinch point at the Woodward Alley permanent. It doesn't stop the illegal trucks or the cut-through traffic. This pinch point will most likely add more cut-through traffic to the side street of Indiana and the residential street of Sylvan. Currently, many cut-through drivers and Woodward Heights residents going north use Indiana and Sylvan to avoid the traffic backups at Woodward. With the new pinch point, even more drivers will use this route. This pinch point will cost Pleasant Ridge residents $30,000. And to add insult to injury, the city says the pinch point will take years to build.
So we'll work on it. I don't have a time frame. It'll probably be a while, potentially years before that gets in. But
if the pinch point is so useful, why doesn't the city simply keep the temporary pinch points they had during the tests? With the city of Pleasant Ridge, it's all about vague promises for the future. They say things like, we continue to look at these issues.
We continue to look at these issues.
And we'll keep it in mind.
We'll keep it in mind if there's anything we can do.
So, after 7 years of begging and battling the city, what is the answer to the illegal trucks and the cut-through traffic, nuisance, and danger on Woodward Heights? The city's answer is to add a pinch point in a few years, costing Pleasant Ridge residents $30,000, and it doesn't stop cut-through traffic or illegal trucks. So now, the city thinks they can wash their hands to Woodward Heights. They think their work is done, but David is not about to give up on his fight with Goliath.
Everybody knows that Woodward Heights is now the new, faster cut-through.
I've almost gotten hit several times on my bike.
Woodward Heights is the most unsafe street to walk on.
I'm just tired of of the traffic.
We actually have semi-trucks.
We're not supposed to have trucks in the city.
I have seen bicycles run off the road.
You know, I live here. This is my home.
You're making it so that it doesn't feel very safe for us.
I have the yard that all the trucks drive on. I have the yard that all the cars in the winter take the turn too fast and end up in my yard.
I've certainly heard the residents. I'm a little frustrated.
That was from a car being upside down. It's just insane that how aggressive people drive on the street.
You actually have to drive in the pseudo bike lane, as you described it, for two cars to pass.
So noisy you can't listen. I can't open my windows and listen to a movie.
And I don't appreciate the way that we've all been treated on this street.
And I'm frustrated with city government for not being responsive. And you're having the audacity to use silly terms like traffic calming. You're fooling absolutely no one. Absolutely no one. Nobody believes you. Nobody believes your data. But I'm sure you've got something to say. You always do.
This is a neighborhood street. Come on.
As time goes on, we will release more previews of this documentary. In the next preview, we'll talk about air pollution and the health effects of living on a cut-through street. We'll take a closer, in-depth look at each member of the Pleasant Ridge city government in an effort to find out what kind of people would allow a residential street to become a cut-through street. What kind of people would use absurd, erroneous excuses to keep it a cut-through street? What kind of people would allow 43 illegal trucks a day on a residential street? And what kind of people would put residents in danger, ruining the quality of their lives?